Alrighty then, g'day guys and welcome. My name's Michael, I'm the Deadles Gamer, and welcome to DAG Reads, a new series that we're trying out where I read a book. That's all I do, I read a book. I've never done a DAG Reads. I know Robert's done Robert Reads, and I know that Dread's done Dread Reads, and by gum, am I gonna wait and let those guys do all the fun stuff? No, of course not. I'm gonna do the fun stuff with you guys. It's what we're gonna do. So hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Yeah, so that's it, we're gonna chill out today. So to let you guys know what we're up to, so check this out. I have my cup of hot cocoa. I got my little hot chocolate there, inspired by Quincy, because, you know, love my Quincy, and Quincy, he does his own reads, and he has hot chocolate, so why can't I? I got my book, which is right here, which I'll show you in a second, which is Emily Rodda's Rowan of Rin. I got you lovely people up here in the chat there, just keeping me company and hanging out, which is always fun. And what else do we have? We got this. We got a little fundraiser. I say fundraiser. It's a fundraiser. It's raising funds for my trip to the US next year. Spicy cocoa? No, not spicy cocoa. Kind of just regular cocoa. It's got a little bit of alcohol in it, but we don't talk about that. You can't prove nothing. Nah, it's got a little bit of little bit of Bailey's in it, because I love Bailey's. Bailey's is amazing. But thank you to Hester and Myth for the $5 donations. You guys are wonderful. Thank you so much. What else do I have? I got my bookmark. I got a new bookmark. Check this out. How cool, how cute is that? Look at this. Yeah, how cute is that? That is this is a bookmark I got from a game that I just purchased, which is called Flamecraft. Hopefully I'll convince the boys to come play with me at some point or another. And yeah, Flamecraft's a lot of fun. It's like you play little tiny dragons in a town. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, so that's my bookmark. And ooh, I got this secret little thing. So you know how there's no DAG merch? Well, there's kind of DAG merch. There's little tiny little bit of DAG merch, which I am only going to make available at PAX this year. So if you're at PAX, swing by, and if you are lucky, I might have one of these badges to give off to people. Look at them, they're little DAG badges. Yeah, there you go. And these are handmade. These are handmade DAG badges. So they're only gonna go to a handful of lucky individuals. And then hopefully people will stop bugging me about DAG merch. That's it. I don't know. Look, I should do DAG merch, but you know, Myth. But that's okay. You know what? Do what I do. Just find people who are going to PAX and be like, "Hi, I would like DAG merch, please." And then, you know, like, yeah, have them give it to you. That's what I do. All right. So what are we doing? Yeah, let's take a look at this book, shall we? Hey, welcome in, Blaze. Thank you so much for the follow. Oh, also, before we begin, I want to say, if I don't read everyone's comments, I do apologize. I've never done a DAG Reads before, but obviously, you know, a great portion of it is going to involve reading. So, so there we go. Why don't vegans moan while having sex? They say they're out of moans after telling me that I shouldn't eat a burger. I mean, what, Blaze? What is the reason that vegans moan while having sex? You cannot simply ask this question with no answer for me, Blaze. Tell me why. Tell me why. Ain't nothing better. Gee, look at the size of this book. How good is this book? This is a book, by the way. Look at this. This, by the way, donated by you guys for the DAG Reads. Thank you so much for everyone who helped us out. Look at that. How cool is that? It's really hefty. It's very cool. Because they can't eat a piece of meat. That's pretty funny. Okay. Hey, what's up, Chew? Nice to see you. Waves from the land of getting kids ready for the day. Love you, my friend. Well, you know what? Today is actually perfect for it, because today we're just going to read a book. That's it. We're just going to sit down and read. So what is Emily Rodda's Rowan of Rin? Now, Emily Rodda is well known for her Del Toro Quest series, which, to be honest, I haven't read. Oh, goddammit. Hang on, sorry. I forgot my stream elements is still giving all my timers and stuff. I'll fix that in a moment. But yeah, so Emily Rodda is known for her Del Toro Quest series, which is absolutely fantastic. I haven't read it myself, but I've heard many, many good things. And it is my hope that that one day I will likely take it upon myself to read the Del Toro Quest series. But before Del Toro Quest, I had actually read this book, which was Rowan of Rin. It was the story of a simple Bookshire farmer who goes on an epic adventure. And the interesting thing about it, well, I don't want to tell you too much about it, but let's just say that it is, for whatever reason, the reason I didn't enjoy Harry Potter as much. Because I thought this was better. Yeah, there you go. I don't know what that says about me or what it says about Harry Potter, but let's not read too deep into it, and let's just dive in to the book, shall we? Let's just start. I mean, I don't know how does one start this? Do you say happy pineapples? I don't know, just whatever. All right. If you have any questions or if you want to chat, again, chat's up there. Let me know. I'll read it. Okay. Rowan of Rin, The Journey. Also by Emily Rodda. Something Special, Pigs May Fly, The Best Kept Secret, Crumbs, Finders Keepers, The Timekeeper, Bob the Builder and the Elves, Dog Tales, Raven Hill Mysteries, and Del Toro Quest. Yeah, there you go. I don't know why they left the best for last. I mean, yeah, it's obviously. Alright, so the contents page. There are 5 books in the series. Rowan of Rin, Rowan and the Travelers, Rowan and the Keeper of the Crystal, Rowan and the Zabak, and Rowan of the Bookshire. So there you go. That's how it is. Used to love Harry Potter, but his dark materials were the best. Fair. Ooh, that's really pretty. Look at that. There's actually a map. So there's the map of Rin and Rin Beyond. We'll know more about that as we start. But yeah, that's really cool. All right. Also, if anything goes wrong, do let me know, because like I said, I've never done a DAG reads, so I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know stuff. I'm just gonna keep going. Let's go. All right. One morning, the people of Rin woke to find that the stream that flowed down from the mountain and through their village had slowed to a trickle. By nightfall, even that small flow had stopped. The mill wheel laid idle. There was no water to turn its heavy blades. The Bookshire drinking pool on the other side of the village was still. No bubbling stream was stirring it to life and keeping it topped up to the brim. There was no change on the 2nd day or the 3rd, and by the 4th day the water in the pool was thick and brown. The Bookshire shook their heavy head and pawed at the ground when they wanted to drink in the morning and evening. After 5 days, the pool was so shallow that even little Anad, who was only 5 years old, could touch the bottom with her hand without getting her sleeves wet. And still the stream failed to flow. On the evening of the 6th day, the worried people met in the market square to talk. "The Bookshire could not drink all day today," said Lan, the oldest person in the village, and once the greatest fighter. "If we do not act soon, they will die." "Not Star," whispered Anad to her brother, who was the keeper of the Bookshire. "Star will not die, though. Will she, Rowan? Because you will give Star water from our well." "Bookshire can't drink water from our well, Anad," said Rowan. "It is not sweet enough for them. It makes them ill. They can only drink the water that flows down from the mountains. It has always been so. If the stream stays dry, Star will die like the rest." Anad begins to sob quietly. The children of Rin were not supposed to cry, but Anad was very young, and she loved Star. Rowan stared straight ahead. His eyes were tearless, but his chest and throat ached with sadness and fear. The sadness was for Star, his friend, and the strongest and gentlest of all the Bookshire, and for all the other great humped woolly beasts, each of which he knew by name. But the fear was for himself and Anad, and their mother, indeed for the whole village. Rowan knew, as Anad did not, that without the Bookshire there would be no rich, creamy milk to drink, no cheese, curd, and butter to eat. There would be no thick grey wool for the cloth. There would be no help to plough the fields or carry the harvest. There would be no broad backs to bear the burdens on the long journey down to the closest trade with the clever, silent Maris folk. The life of Rin depended on the Bookshire. Without them, the village too would die. All right. Alright. One moment. I'm choking because I didn't drink. But that is a good start. I did it. I read a page. There you go. Thanks for coming. Bye, everyone. Could you imagine? That is very hot. Okay. Also, hello, C#. Nice to see you. Pops in just to read. In silence. Good. Anad could not imagine the valley without the village, but Rowan could. Reading the old stories in the house of books, listening half asleep to Timon under the teaching tree, and most of all, sitting on the grass by the stream while the bookshag grazed around him. In the silence of the morning, he had often imagined this place as the first settlers must have seen it. Hundreds of years ago, as they had climbed through the hills, carrying the few things that they owned on their back, looking for somewhere in this strange land that they could claim for their own. They had come from far across the sea. They had fought a terrible enemy. On the coast they had heard from wandering native peoples called the Travellers of a place at the bottom of a forbidden mountain high in the countries within the farlands. They had been tramping there for many, many days in search of it, and were very tired. Some had almost given up hope. Then, one afternoon, they had topped a rise and looked down. There below them, nestled between the towering mountains ahead and a hill on which they stood, was a green, secret valley. The people stared speechless. They saw the trees loaded with small blue fruit and fields of flower that they did not recognize. They saw a stream and a pool and a herd of strange grey beasts lifting their heads to stare, horns shining in the sun. They saw silence, stillness, and rich earth, and peace. The people knew then that this was the place. This would be their home. So they came down and mingled with the big, gentle animals, who were tame and unafraid. They called them the Booksha. "The stream flows down from the mountains," says Broden. The furniture maker... it's a woman. Let's see. What's her voice going to sound like? "The stream flows down from the mountains," says Broden. The furniture maker, her loud voice breaking into Rowan's thoughts. He watched her stab the air with a stubby pointed finger. "So the problem must be up there. Up there something's amiss. Something is stopping the flow." All eyes turned to the mountain rise, high above the village, its tips shrouded, as always, in cloud. "We must climb the mountain and find out what it is," Broden went on. "This is our only chance." "No," Neil the Potter shook his head. "We cannot climb the mountain. Even if travellers don't venture there, terrible dangers await anyone who dares. And atop, the dragon." Broden sneers at him. You're crazy talking like the traveller yourself, Neil. There's no dragon up there. The dragon's a story to tell children to make 'em behave. If there was a dragon, we would have seen it. It would have preyed on the Booksha and us."
Well, perhaps. Perhaps it takes its prey elsewhere. We do not know, Broden.
Alan the baker Alan the baker's light, pleasant voice rose above the muttering of the crowd.
"But, if you will excuse me for talking like a crazy traveller, remembering that my father was one, and it's only to be expected. Let me remind you of what we do know."
His usually smiling face was now grim as he stared down Broden.
"We do not know that we hear it roar almost every morning and every night. We do know that we hear it roar almost every morning and every night, and that we sees its fire in the clouds."
Broden rolled her eyes disdainfully, but Rowan shivered, tendering the Booksha in the cold and the dark winter morning, and in the evening when the sun had slipped behind the mountains, he had heard the sound of the dragon. He had seen its fire too,
in the skies above the clouds. The bookshaw swayed and grew restless at these times. The calves bellowed, and the bigger beasts pawed at the ground, flaring their nostrils and huddling together in fear. Even Star moaned when the dragon roared, and when he stroked her neck to calm her, he would feel the nerves jumping under her long, soft wool. Suddenly he realized something. Something no one else seems to have thought of. He must speak. Nervously, he rose to his feet. The village stared curiously at him. What could the boy, Rowan, the shy, timid herder of the bookshaw, have to say? "The dragon has not roared since the stream dried up," said Rowan. "Not in the morning and not at night." He spoke as loudly as he could, but his voice sounded small in the silence. He sank back down. "Is this so?" Alan looked around the circle. "Is the boy mistaken?"
"No, he is not," says Broden. "As I recall it now, indeed there has been no sound from the morning for days."
She lifted her head.
"So I'm right then. There must be something amiss high above. I've told you what we must do." "But we cannot do it," insisted Neil, with dread. "The mountain is way too steep, too dangerous. We cannot climb it."
"Has anyone ever tried?" inquired Alan.
Well, I'll find out if you're male or female later, but,
"Yes," said a tall, straight-backed Marley, the weaver and dyer of cloth. In times gone by, some people did climb that mountain to look for new fruit to plant in our orchards, but they never returned. After that, the people of Rin heeded the warning and left the mountain alone."
"You see," Neil bursted out, "you see, if we climb the mountain, we will die."
"But Neil," boomed Broden, "if we do not climb the mountain, we will die."
Ooh, okay. This one's a good one.
"Broden's right. We must make our choice," said Strong John, who was the keeper of the orchard. "We remain here and hope the stream begins running again of its own accord, or we climb the mountain and try to remove whatever's stopping the water from flowing down to us. Both ways are dangerous. What is our decision? To go or to stay?"
"We must go," Marley replied. "We cannot simply stand by and let death slowly come to our village. I vote we go."
"Aye and aye," shouted Broden. "I vote yes," said Strong John.
"And I too,"
added Alan lightly.
Yes, we agree," growled the mighty... Oh, jeez. So many people. Okay, hold on. Let me get this right. There is Broden, Alan, Strong John, Marley, Neil, and now Val the Miller. "Yes, we agree." Growled. "Yes, we agree. Yes, we agree." Okay, there we go.
"Yes, we agree,"
growled the mighty Val the Miller, who stood silently listening in the shadows, shoulder to shoulder, as always, with Ellis, her twin brother. Val and Ellis toiled together in the mill, grinding grain into flour, endlessly cleaning the great stone building so as not a speck of dirt or the tiniest spiderweb could be seen within its walls. Gilla, Rowan's mother, had said that since childhood, no one had ever seen them apart. Yes. One by one, the villagers stood up, and Rowan looked around at the familiar faces, now so serious and so stern. Maze, the keeper of the books, was standing with her son and daughter. So was Timon, the teacher, and Bree and Hannah from the gardens. White-haired Lan leaned on a stick beside them, and even fat, soft Sola, who made sweet toffees and cakes, could never resist his own cooking, had struggled to his feet. Then Rowan saw Gilla rise slowly to join them. His heart thudding with fear, he scrambled to his feet beside her. Soon Neil, the potter, and 4 others were the only ones still seated. So it's decided," cried Broden triumphantly. "We will arm ourselves and set out at dawn."
"Wait," said Marley. "We must not go without consulting Sheba."
"That mad old hag, that spinner of children's nightmares and curer of pains in the bellies, what has she got to do with this?"
"Sheba is old, Broden, but she is not mad," said Marley firmly. "As anyone who has been cured of her illness by her remedies will tell you, Sheba knows more than herbs and spells. She understands the mountain as you and I never will. Sheba knows the way up the mountain, the secret way she was taught by the wise woman before her. We must ask Sheba to help us."
"That is a good idea," agreed Strong John. The people murmured. Many did not trust the wise woman, Sheba. She lived alone beyond the orchard, gathering herbs and other growing things, selling medicines and ointments and dyes which she had made from them. She rarely spoke to anyone other than those with whom she traded, and when she did, it was seldom pleasant. The children of Rin were a hardy crew, like all of their race, but were they afraid of Sheba, and call her not the wise woman, but instead the witch?
"Oh, come now, what harm can she do?"
called Alan, grinning.
If the old one can tell us anything, which I doubt, then all the better. But if she cannot, then we've lost nothing."
"Ah, traveller foolishness," snapped Broden. "This is not a game, Alan the Baker. Why don't you—" "Enough!" cried Old Lan. She glanced at Broden, who scowled. "We are going into the unknown," she says sternly. Oh, no, sorry. My apologies. It's the other way around. Hey! Wow. Schoolie Eye giving out 5 subs and 1 gifted sub from Brass. Thank you so much. And a hype train. Guys, thank you so much. I feel like I've missed out on a lot of chat. Let's see if I can scroll back up and see what's been going on. What's the dealio, guys? All the voices. Yeah, all the voices. I'm trying. I'm hoping I'm doing all right. G'day. There we go. We could see. Should ask Rob for some tips on reading aloud without straining your voice. Yeah, that's very true. I really should. Night shift tonight. Oof. Night shifts always tough. Straight to level 2. Dang, guys, thank you so much for the hype train. Stuff like this really does go a long way to supporting me in the channel and all the stuff that we do. It is greatly appreciated, and all the love, Schoolie Eye and Myth and everyone who is donating and making this awesome, and Brass as well. Brass, you're amazing. Okay, where are we at? Enough! Cried Old Lan. She glanced at Broden, who scowled. We are going into the unknown, she said sternly, and time is precious. We can't afford to miss a chance to speed our way. Who knows Sheba the best?
I know her, said Strong John. She gathers herbs that help grow under the hoopberry trees in the orchard.
I trade with her, said Marley. Her purple and blue dyes in return for cloth. Then you two can go and beg her for a favour, sniffed Broden, since you two are so keen to do so. She turned her back on them.
We will wait here for your return, said Alan. Be speedy. There's much to plan.
He laughs.
And take care not to insult her.
Please? Like Broden, she is not a woman to be trifled with. Strong John looked around and at the watching villagers and pointed. Rowan jumped. John's finger was pointing at him.
Boy! Rowan!
I'm now imagining him like the Toast of London guy.
You, boy! Rowan! Come thither!
No, it's just no.
Boy, Rowan,
called Strong John.
Little rabbit herder of the Bookshire, run and get 2 cheeses from the cool house. The oldest, ripest, strongest cheeses from the topmost shelf, and bring them to us at Sheba's hut. Sheba is very fond of a good strong cheese. The gift will sweeten her temper.
Rowan stared open-mouthed and didn't move. He was terrified of Sheba. His mother nudged him. I will go, piped up little Anad beside him. I'm not frightened. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Go along, Rowan, Gilla urged in a whisper. Do as you're bid. At once. Rowan scurried away through the crowd. He is scared of his shadow, that boy. He heard Val the miller mutter to her brother as he passed. He will never be the man his father was. Ellis grunted in agreement. Rowan ran on, his cheeks bright and burning with shame. All right. Hey, it was so close to... We are at 95% of level 2, almost at 3. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. This is amazing. So we're half an hour in, which is great. We are now on chapter 2, which is also great. I'm going to take a quick moment to ask you guys, like, what do you guys think of the book so far? Any thoughts, any comments, any feelings? I mean, part of this is, hey, thank you so much for ticking us over. But yeah, any thoughts on the adventure thus far? The river has been dried up. The stream is now in peril. What do you guys think? Any favorite characters emerging? Any thoughts on people? That's the stuff. Liking it so far? Great. That's wonderful. I'll get the voices a bit more distinct. Like, I know that the twins, Val and Alice, don't really have different voices yet, but can't think of something for them. I think Marley's supposed to be a lot softer as well, but yeah, I'll get there. I love that. I love that everyone's heard the roaring of the dragon, and everyone's like, "Oh, the dragon's fake." Brrrg. Nah, it's fake. Don't worry about it. And then the people who were saying it was fake, it was like, you hear the roaring. Oh, sorry, the roaring has stopped. Oh, so something's wrong. The dragon's not there, you know. It's like, look, either you don't believe the dragon's there, or you believe it's there, you know. It's not both. Come now. Totally great reading for cleaning. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Whew. Chapter 2. Sheba. Rowan was panting when he reached the cool house. Trembling, he climbed the ladder and took two of the oldest cheeses from their shelf. The cool house was packed with cheeses, vats of smooth white milk curds, churns of butter, plenty for everyone, but not for long, if the supplies did not replace the old. He left the cool house and hurried towards the orchard, beyond which lay Sheba's hut. He could hear the sounds of the crowd still assembled in the market square, and he was glad he didn't have to pass them on his way back. As he reached the outskirts of the village, he thought about what Val had said. Stumbling slightly in the ragged grass, he began to move through the hoopberry trees, dodging the twisted hanging branches. He thought about Sefton, his father. Sefton had come home from the market late one night, just after Anad was born, to find his house burning. A log had rolled from the fire and set the ground ablaze, and flames were licking the staircase, and the house was filling with smoke. Sefton had shouted for help, and then leapt up the burning stairs. He had pulled the unconscious Giller and the new baby from their beds, carrying them down to safety. But then, as the flames burned brighter and hotter, he threw a blanket over his head and went back into the house for Rowan, who was in the attic. No one could stop him. Later they said that through the heat and smoke, though the heat and smoke beat everyone else back, even the giant millers, Val and Ellis, even Strong John, Sefton's friend. They saw Sefton at the attic window with Rowan in his arms. They saw him fling the window open and heard him cry out. They rushed to catch what he threw to them, his son screaming in terror, wrapped tightly in a rug from his bed. Then they heard a crash and saw the roof fall, and the flames that leapt high and roared. Strong John, cradling Rowan in his huge arms, gave a shout of grief. Sefton had saved his family, but he had gone from them forever. Rowan grew up knowing that his father had died to save him. He knew, too, that although they never say it openly, many people in the village of Rin felt that the exchange had not been a fair one. The villagers were farmers and traders now, but they were descendants from great warriors, and in their time, when Rin was threatened, many of the older ones had fought to defend it. The War of the Plains was alive in their memory, and records of dozens of volumes in the House of Books. The people of Rin were proud of their tradition and of courage. At an early age, every village child learned to run, climb, jump, and swim, and fight. Rowan had trained with the others, but he had never been good at anything. He had always been too small for his age. He had always been shy, and since the night of the fire, he had even been quieter and more nervous than before. Val was right, he thought. He would never be the man his father was. And neither would he have the strength of his mother, who since his father's death had worked even harder, plowing the wheat fields with Star, planting and gathering the crops, taking it to the mill. Rowan had been given the job of herding the Bookshire because it was easy. Tending the big, gentle beast needs no strong arm or great courage. Only once, years ago, had a keeper of the Bookshire come to any grief, and the mine shaft into which she had fallen trying to save a wandering calf had been closed so long ago. A much smaller child than Rowan could have done the work, but he was allowed to remain with the beasts. For this he was grateful. And I'm grateful for you guys. Thank you so much for the tier 3 train. I hope you guys enjoy all of the cool emotes, and it is very, very, very appreciated. Thank you. Yeah, all donations, all proceeds for the next, well, pretty much indefinitely, are going towards our trip to the US in May. There you go, all the stuff down there. But thank you guys. Thank you so much. All right. The Bookshire loved him and knew his voice. They would look at him with their soft brown eyes and nuzzle his hands when he was sad, as if they knew his troubles. In return, he tried to make their lives comfortable, learning to cure their ills, treat their cuts and bruises, as his mother had treated his, combing burrs and prickles from their woolly coats. When the winter snows blew in the valley, he would bring the old and weak to shelter, for he knew that the freezing winds could kill them, and he couldn't bear to lose even one. In the spring, when the blossoms of the orchard sweetened the air, he would run and play with the calves, and carry them a handful of the new peas he had stolen from the gardens when no one was looking. Rowan listened. He could hear the beasts now, in the fields nearby, rumbling and snuffling to each other as the sun began to dip behind the mountains. He wished he was with them instead of tripping over his own feet in the orchards, his arms full of smelly cheeses, and his head full of shame and fears. He scrambled through the fences that marked the orchard's boundaries, and his steps slowed as he saw the light flickering from Sheba's hut. Despite the coolness of the evening air, her door was open, and a gigantic shadow wavered and crept on the strange pale grass that grew before it. He began to tremble as he approached. 2 of Bree and Hannah's children had once told him Sheba could turn you into a fat slug if she chose. They pointed to the slugs that they were picking up from the cabbage leaves. "These were old people once," they said. "Look, that's our Uncle Arthur right there." We knew him by the spot on his forehead. He gave the witch a rotten tomato in a bag he traded for a bellyache medicine. One rotten tomato in a bag of 20, and that's what she did to him. Goodbye, Uncle Arthur. Hello, Uncle Slug. You want to give him a kiss? They pushed the wriggling, writhing creature up to Rowan's mouth and hooted after him as he ran away. Rowan knew they had been teasing him. He knew it, really. But sometimes in bed at night, or if a Bookshire strayed and he had to go near Sheba's hut to catch it, the children's story would come back to him. He would remember the slow, fat slug with the spot on its forehead and shudder. Voices drifted out to meet him as he trot softly among the shadows on the grass. Strong John and Marley, and another voice, cackled and low. Sheba.
The stream flows down from the mountains atop, above the clouds, she was saying. Under the earth and rock it flows to Rin. And so you must climb the mountain to the very top, my fine friends. And none knows the secret way but Sheba.
Her mocking laugh rang out. Rowan thought of putting the cheeses down on the doorstep and running home. But as he stepped forward, a twig snaps under the toe of his boot.
At last!
Strong John's head popped out of the door. He puts his arm behind Rowan's back and propels him inside.
The boy with the cheeses. Our gift to you, Sheba, he says heartily, in trade for your knowledge of the way.
The old woman, sitting by the fire, sniffed the air and smacked her lips with a greedy sound.
The cheeses, she gloated.
Then frowned, her eyes narrow.
Bring them here, she ordered. Closer, boy!
Rowan hesitated. Marley, beside him, gives him a gentle push. His feet felt like stone. He forced them forward, one step at a time.
What are you hiding?
Snapped Sheba, half rising from her chair.
I said closer, boy! Come here and put these famous cheeses in my lap. For how do I know that I'm not being cheated? Fobbed off with some second-class goods.
They're the best we have, Sheba. Rowan chose them for himself from the highest shelf in our cool house. You will like them, said Marley.
Says you,
scowled Sheba. She hunched her shoulders and stared at Rowan. In the firelight, her eyes looked red. Her forehead was bound with a purple rag, and her hair hung like thin grey tails around her face. She smelt of ash and dust, old clothes and bitter herbs. Rowan reached her chair and placed the round yellow cheeses on her lap, and backed swiftly away, holding his breath, trying not to look at her. But Sheba had lost interest in him. She was prodding the cheeses with her bony finger, sniffing them one by one. Rowan hugged himself and shuddered, sheltering behind the figure of Marley, sheltering behind the tall figure of Marley from those terrible red eyes. What if he had chosen badly? What if these cheeses weren't good after all? What if Sheba thought he was trying to trick her? The old woman looked up.
They are good, she pronounced. As good as you said they'd be, John of the Orchard.
Naturally, Strong John bowed. Now, Sheba, Marley said firmly, will you tell us what we wish to know?
Ah, brave Marley!
She giggled unpleasantly. Taking some sticks from a basket beside her, she threw them in the fire, which flared up as the sticks caught alight. Shadows danced across her face as she turned back to them.
Brave as you weave your cloth, safe at home, and dream of glory, but how brave will you be on the mountain? The mountain has a way of taming big, brave girls like Marley, if they are so foolish as to try their strength against it. It has ways, so many ways, as you will discover.
Rowan felt Marley stiffen, and saw her cheek began to burn red. We do not need your warnings, Sheba, she says in a level voice.
And John, Strong John, keeper of the trees, fine, tall man, jeered the old woman, ignoring her. Now you come here to ask me for favors, but what were you but a raggedy, bare-bottomed little boy, like all the rest once upon a time, crying for Mama when Sheba passed by?
She bared her long brown teeth at him with a hideous grin.
The mountain will not test your strength, John. It will destroy it, as it has destroyed the strength of men with twice your courage. You will twist and blubber like a baby in the grip of the mountain, but the mountain will not let you go.
There was a moment of silence. Rowan was rigid with horror, and Strong John laughed. He then plants his hands on his hips and addresses the old woman sternly.
Quit your tales, Sheba, he says. They are wasted on me and Marley. The boy Rowan is the only one to fear them here. You should not think us so foolish as to follow his example. Look, you have scared him half to death, poor skinny little rabbit. And he picked you such excellent cheeses, too. You should beg his pardon.
Also, thank you, Hester. I will take that in mind. All right. Sheba went on grinning, but her eyes shone scarlet.
Laugh then, John of the Orchard, she sneered. If the boy is the only one afraid, then he is the only one of you with sense. It will do you no harm to be guided by him.
She again reaches down into the basket beside her.
And so indeed I must beg his pardon,
she cackled. Then, fast as a striking snake, she threw a stick straight at Marley, who yelled and jumped aside in fright, leaving Rowan to take the full blow of the flying wood. Rowan stumbles backwards, nearly felled, the stick clutched in his hand as blood drips from a gash in his forehead. Strong John exclaimed in anger, stepping forward with clenched fist.
A gift,
snarled the old woman,
from Sheba, and I do beg your pardon, Rowan of the Bookshaw.
Sheba, you go too far,
thundered Strong John. Her lips curved.
Do I so?
She says.
Well then, perhaps this meeting should be ended.
Not until you've told us what we've come to hear, cried Marley. She glanced at Rowan, cowering in the shadows. And quickly, the boy's forehead must be attended to.
'Tis only a scratch, said Sheba placidly, but still I grow weary. I tire of your childishness. I will tell you what you need to know, as far as I am able. Wait.
She lay back in her chairs and half closed her eye. Her hands stroked the cheeses on her laps as though they were cats. The fire glowed. She began to drone and mumble to herself. For a long time they could make no sense of the words. Then, at last, she spoke clearly.
7 hearts the journey make. 7 ways the heart will break. The bravest heart will carry on when sleep is death and hope is gone. Look in the fiery jaws of fear and see the answers white and clear. Then throw away all thoughts of home, for only then your quest is done.
Sheba's eyelids flutter and her eyes open. For a moment she stares blankly at John, Marley, and Rowan, as though wondering why they were here. Then her expression sharpens. She waved her hand at them impatiently. She no longer looked like a witch, just a tired, crabby old woman.
Go now, she says. I can tell you no more.
But the way, Sheba. We must go, urged Marley. You have told us nothing.
Have I not? Well, we shall see. Perhaps you will feel differently by and by. Now leave me in peace.
Sheba's chin sank to her chest, and she was silent. They waited, but she would not raise her head again, and after a while she began to snore. She is asleep, whispered Rowan.
Asleep or pretending, said Strong John in disgust. In any case, there is nothing more for us here. We must go back. The others have waited long enough for us.
They left the hut and began to hurry towards the village. And we returned empty-handed, exclaimed Marley, with Rowan bleeding. Rowan, I cannot forgive myself for stepping aside and leaving you to be struck. I was taken by surprise.
The old devil intended Rowan to suffer, said Strong John grimly. She was punishing me for laughing at her and telling her to beg for his pardon. The fault is mine.
Rowan, trotting alongside them, Rowan, trotting along beside them through the orchard, was feeling dizzy and faint. But whether this was because of the cut on his forehead or simply the terror he had felt in Sheba's cottage, he didn't know. Her horrible warning whirled around in his head, and a strange droning chant seemed to have been burnt into his brain. He could not forget it. 7 hearts the journey make, 7 ways the heart will break. He found himself repeating it under his breath, beating time against his leg with a stick that he still held within his grasp. The bravest heart will carry on, when sleep is death, and hope is gone.
Put it out of your mind, boy, Rowan, said Strong John uneasily. Look ahead. The village lights. You'll soon be home and with your mother.
He exchanged a glance with Molly.
And what she will say to me, bringing you home in this state,
he added in as an undertone. Right. That is chapter 2. Dealing with Sheba. That was intense. I loved the idea of like Sheba and how the mad old crone. It was very, very Shakespearean. Like the witches in the cauldron, like predicting the future, and the rhyming passage and stuff like that. How you all doing? You all doing all right? Yeah, feeling good, enjoying the little stuff. I hope you're enjoying the music as well. It's like some random comfort music. Also, hi Maddie. I didn't see you come in, but welcome in. Just having a nice, relaxing reading stream. Super comfy and relaxing. Awesome. I'm glad that they're the vibes. But yeah, if you guys have any comments and stuff like that, feel free to comment on the story. If you do want me to speak faster or slower or whatever, please tell me as well. Like I said, I am still figuring some stuff out as to what's comfortable and what's easy listening. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys. I don't know. I like I said, never done a reading stream. So taking a break every chapter is a good idea. And just touching base with you guys. Half closed my eyes if there was an audiobook here. Oh, thank you, Scully. I'm glad. Skip cleaning, grabbed a drink. Little tipsy. Yeah. You know what? Cheers, mate. That's this is my hot chocolate with Bailey's, so I'm right there with you, buddy. Good. You know what? I mean, it's probably very relevant to people in Australia, but maybe just maybe I'll do the DAG reads as a morning stream for me, which will be late night for some people, maybe, and then it can be like a bedtime stream. All right, shall we carry on? What do you think? What am I gonna call you? You have a name. I know you've got a name. It's I gotta find out what the dragon's name is. Because this dragon has a name. It's like a meat-based name. It's like Hickory or something. Can't remember. I'll find out. Okay. Chapter 3. Heroes. Oh, sorry. The Heroes. After inspecting the cut on her son's forehead, however, Jill simply smiled and shrugged. It was nothing serious at all, she says, and it could be attended to at home later. All of the children had to put up with such things at one time or another. Rowan knew that her words were for him as much as Strong John and Marley. She was reminding him to be brave, as befitting a child of Rin, and not to fuss. Rowan knew that Jiller worried about his nervousness and frailty. He had overheard her telling Strong John so outside their house only a month or 2 ago. She tried to be patient. Jiller had said, but Rowan is so different from herself, and from his father, and even from sturdy little Anad, that it was sometimes very hard. She didn't understand him, and she wished that his father was alive. Rowan had crept away and scuttled upstairs to the room he now shared with Anad. He had lain on his bed for quite some time, not really thinking about anything, aware only of a dull ache in his chest. So now he stood beside his mother, with his swimming head and burning eyes, and said nothing. He longed to throw himself into her arms and cry for comfort, but there would be no comfort there, only shame. "I told you Sheba was a waste of time," Broden was saying, half in triumph and half in exasperation. Now she has two of our best cheeses in her grubby paws, and we are none the wiser."
"Oh, never mind," Alan said, shrugging. "We decided to try her, and try we did. Now a new decision must be made, for we cannot all climb the mountain. Who is to go?"
"Well, I will go," shouted Broden. She glared at all of them, as if daring someone to oppose her.
"Why not?" said Strong John. "None doubts your willingness, or your courage, or your right, Broden. As I presume no one doubts mine, I will go too."
Rowan's heart felt as though it was being gripped by an icy hand. He remembered Sheba's words. "The mountain will not test your strength, John. It will destroy it." "No," he gasped. His mother's hand tightened on his arm. "And I," said Marley firmly, her eyes on Broden. Val and Ellis had been quietly talking together. Now Val raised her gruff voice. "Until the mill wheel turns again, we've got no work to do. So we will join you on the mountain. Better than sitting waiting idle."
"You could do with a bit of house cleaning for a change."
"Oh, sorry, no. You could do a bit of house cleaning for a change," Alan teased. Val stared at him coldly, while some of the other villagers exchanged amused glances. Everyone knew that Val and Ellis didn't like anyone to make fun of their fussy housekeeping. "This is madness," cried Neil the Potter, unable to keep silent any longer. "This is no laughing matter, Broden, John, Marley, Val, Ellis. The strongest of us are going into the unknown." He appealed to the crowd. If they do not come back, these hotheads, how are we to survive? What will happen if the Zebak invade once more? Or if some other dreadful danger threatens us?" "Another dreadful danger doesn't threaten, Neil," Old Land said. "Right as we stand here, perhaps the most dreadful we have ever faced, and to save the village... Perhaps the most dreadful threat we have ever faced, and to save the village from it, some of us must journey to the unknown. That is exactly why the strongest must be the ones to go." She turns to John. "Still, I think the party is too small as yet. You'll need one more."
Alan steps forward. "I agree. I will join the company, and that will make the numbers even."
He saw Broden open her mouth to object, and went on quickly.
"Ah, Broden, look, I know that I'm only a half-bred of Rin, and my strengths may not match yours, but I'm not quite a weakling. I have mastered, I think, all the skills needed for a journey like this. And I have other gifts to offer, thanks to my father's blood. A cool head for one, a good way to make a campfire for another, and a stock of songs and jokes that will not go astray. Besides, with the miller's absence and no flour to be had, how else will a poor baker occupy the next few days?"
"You could come dig in my garden, Alan."
You can come dig in my garden, Alan," picked up Sarah, his mother. There was a shout of laughter from the people around. The old woman smiled. Only Rowan and Alan had saw her hand were gripping her apron, twisting the white cloth, and that her eyes were twinkling not with laughter, but with unshed tears. She had lived long enough to have heard the old stories of the mountain, and to fear its power, and Alan was her only child. But like a true daughter of Rin, Sarah knew how to hide her feelings. Only once, many years ago, had she let her guard down, and that was when she fell in love with a man who would become Alan's father, a laughing, brown-eyed singer who had come to the village one autumn with a troop of travellers. Rowan had heard the stories many times, though the thing had happened many years before he was born, when his mother and father were children themselves. It was part of the village's history and was repeated every time a tribe of travelers came to camp nearby. Rowan could imagine the shock it must have caused when it became known that Sarah, the sensible village teacher, would leave Rin to marry a footloose traveler. But most people were horrified and tried hard enough to make her change her mind. But she would not be persuaded, and when the traveler moved on, she went too, leaving the peace and security of her old home to wander with the man she loved and his tribe. The people of Rin saw Sarah a few years after that, when the travelers had a chance to come their way again. A small, cheeky, fat-faced Alan was toddling after her by then, and her happiness was in her face for all to see. Some shook their heads and said her smiles would not last, and they were right, though not for the reasons they had thought. For then came the 5-year War of the Plains, when again the people of Rin, the Maris folk, and the travelers themselves were forced to join the battle against the invaders from across the sea, their ancient enemy, the Zebak. As their ancestors had done before them, they at last drove the Zebak from their lands, but the battle was long and cost many brave lives. One of these was Sarah's husband. Sarah brought her young son back to the village after that, without her man. The traveler life had no sweetness for her, and she wanted to settle again with her own people in her old home. But home for Alan was the colorful tents of the travelers, the smell of the camp fires burning at night, the open plains, forests, winding roads that seemed to have no end. Slender, dark-eyed, and curly hair, Alan was the image of his father, and very different from the tall, strong children of Rin. Under the teaching tree, with Broden, Giller, Val, Ellis, and the others of like age in those days, he held his head up high and smiled at their glances, nudges, and whispers. Outside of school, though he worked hard to seem as much like them as possible, he soon learnt that his strengths was no match for theirs, and that his wits were his best weapons. Rowan often felt that Alan might be the one person in the village who understood how he felt, as he too was weaker, and different from the others. Not that Alan ever said so. But when he visited the house with Marley and Strong John, he often joked with Rowan and took interest in what he was doing, as well as made excuses for his mistakes. And now Alan too was climbing the mountain, trying yet again to prove himself to be a worthy citizen of Rin. John and Marley were looking pleased, and Broden was rolling his eyes at Val and Ellis, clearly not liking the sixth member of the party, but unable to think of a good reason to deny him. Funny, easygoing Alan the baker was going to vanish with the others into the secret maze of cliffs and forests that rose above them. Once more Rowan remembers Sheba's mocking face.
"Ah, well, if you must go, you must go. My weeds will have to thrive for another few days,"
old Sarah was calling, smiling and flapping her hands in mocking despair, while her eyes still shone with tears.
"Oh, bless you, mother,"
said Alan. His tone was light, but the love and admiration in his words were clear for all to hear.
"Now,"
said John hastily, for he was a man embarrassed by strong feelings and open expressions,
"I suggest we go home and make preparations for our journey. That a good night's sleep should be had by all before dawn. Agreed?"
The others nodded. The villagers called out their good nights and began to slowly move towards their homes. Some felt comforted, because something was being done to solve the problem that had come upon them so unexpectedly to spoil the calm progression of their days. Some felt excited, even envious at the thought of a great adventure awaiting the chosen ones. But many, like Neil, went to their beds that night with heavy hearts, because the leaders and heroes of the village were going on a dangerous quest for their sake and may never return. When Anna had finally fallen asleep, exhausted by all the excitement, Rowan lay awake in his bed, looking out the window at the huge bulk of the mountain. The moonlight was very bright, but the mountain loomed back against the sky, secret and full of mysteries. Giller had cleaned the cut on his forehead, but his head still ached, and Sheba's jeering words of warning tormented him. He tried every way he could to stop his thoughts to the unpleasant things. He tried every way he could to turn his thoughts to pleasant things. To Star. To the new calf to soon be born into the herd. To the taste of cool blue juice from the hoopberry press. To the memories of the memories of the mother of his babyhood. It's a weird sentence. And to memories of the mother of his babyhood. Is that a common thing? Okay, sure. And to the memories of the mother of his babyhood, a gentler, happier Jilla singing to him. But always, just as he was about to fall asleep, the other, darker thoughts came creeping back, and made him afraid to close his eyes. Finally he did sleep, a shallow doze filled with nightmares. He was back in Sheba's hut, but now its four walls were made of rock, dripping with water and slime, and Sheba was huge, her nose long and pointed, her greasy hair swinging tails like thick ropes around her grinning face, her red eyes piercing. Strong John and his mother stood there with him, but they made no move to help as the witch bent towards him, closer and closer, till her face was all he could see, and her breath scalded his cheek.
"If you are the only one afraid, Skinny Rabbit, then you are the only one with sense," she croaks.
She opens her mouth and screams with laughter, but she had no tongue, and the inside of her mouth was yellow and smooth as cheese. And that is the end of chapter 3. Look at that. Freaking smashing it. Absolutely smashing it. How we all doing? All right? Man, this is heavy. This is a heavier book than I thought it was. I mean, I remember it being, like, good, right? But, like, I mean, this is a classic example of, like, the hero's journey, right? Like, the first thing you do is you establish the norm. What is normal in this town? Where do we begin? What is the start? And, hey, thanks for the follow, you boy. Great to see you. Welcome to the crypt. And I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. But yeah, it starts off by setting up, like, you know, we know about the bookshop, we know about the stream, we know about where we're being fed these little tidbits about all of the heroes that have gone on this thing, about Big John, Strong John, and Marley, who seem to be kind of the warriors who are willing to go and talk to the old witch, and all this stuff. We're finding out so much about what Rin is as a place before the adventure, because the next bit, and this is where we come to the very important part of any good hero story, is something needs to force our hero to have to give up their comfortable life. That's one of the key elements to any good adventure. Doesn't matter if it's a novel, doesn't matter if it's a TTRPG, whatever. That's the next step. So let's see what happens. Oh my god. I was curious. I was reading a book, but I didn't understand this. Ooh, what's this? Discord attachment. Good job. Well done. Kudos. I'm gonna delete that, but well played. Bum 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 bum. Let's see. Wheel of Time? Yeah, no, it absolutely does remind me very much of the Wheel of Time. 100%. 100% reminds me of that. All right, there we go. All right. Well, you're in a timeout, but that's okay. You'll be back. Only because I can't delete the post otherwise. And that is the easiest way for me to do it because it is freaking 10 p.m. and I can't figure it out. But I hope you enjoy the rest of the reading. Okay. Yeah, I remember Wheel of Time, and like there's a bunch of other really great like hero story adventures which have that kind of very, like Percy Jackson's another really good one. Like I said, Harry Potter is another really great example. There are lots of wonderful ways that that these stories kind of have this really, really cool first few chapters about like really kind of building the world and making you feel lived in before the adventure. It's just due diligence in adventures and games like that. All right. Chapter 4. Seeing is believing. Rowan woke and lay panting and shuddering, soaked in sweat. He had no idea what time it was. The dream had seemed to take hours, but it might only have been seconds. Anad slept peacefully on, her mouth slightly open, one hand curled around her soft bookshire toy. She at least was having no bad dreams, but the thought of going back to sleep was terrifying to Rowan. He threw back the covers and leapt out of bed. It was very cold. The cool night air was blowing through the window, and his sleeping shirt was wet through. He peeled it off and quickly began to put on his day clothes, which he had left in a pile on the floor when he changed for bed. Underneath the clothes was the stick Sheba had hurled at him. He carried it home unthinkingly and brought it to his room. He picked it up and slid his fingers up and down its length. It was a good stick, straight, thick, and so smooth it might have been polished, except for one little pointed bump in the middle. That was possibly where he had cut his forehead. Rowan decided, pushing the soft pad of his thumb against the bump. It was hard and sharp enough. But then, the bump moved. It slid forward under his thumb, and the stick began to peel. Rowan gasped as the smooth surface beneath the finger came away into a single fine sheet of paper. He pulled the sheet, fascinated as more and more of it unrolled, and realized that the stick was not a stick at all. It was a tightly rolled piece of parchment. The little bump in the center had been a catch that had held it closed. With a glance at the sleeping Anad, he hurried towards the lamplight. She would not wake, and he had to look at it more closely, at this strange thing which he now held in his hands. For even in the dimness, he could see that the parchment was not blank. There were pictures on it, and lines, and words. He had to see what they were. He spread the parchment out onto the wooden floor and put a weight on top of it, on all four corners, with his shoes and Anad's, to stop it from curling up. It was a map of the mountain, with a pathway marked in red. Rowan clapped his hands over his mouth to stop himself from calling out. Sheba had played a trick on them. She had pretended to let them down, knowing all the time that Rowan was carrying away just what they needed, knowing that they might never discover what she had given them. How she must have laughed at herself at Strong John's disgust and Marley's disappointment. Rowan rolled up the map tightly and fastened the clasp. He pulled on his shoes. Then he stood in the middle of his bedroom, thoughts whirling. Rowan, what are you going to do? He spun around to meet his mother's startled eyes. She gaped. She gapped him. She gaped him. She looked at him from the doorway. He blinked at her. Like him, Jilla was fully dressed as if ready to go out. Tongue-tied, he held up the rolled map. I had a dream, and... Oh, Rowan, Jilla sighed in exasperation. These nightmares, What am I going to do with you, my son? For a moment, Rowan thought he saw her lips tremble. And now, this morning... She broke off and put her hands to her face. When she lowered them, she was calm again. If we wish to bid the mountain party farewell with the rest of the village, we must go soon, she said. They leave at dawn. Put down that stick and gather Anad's clothes. I must wake her. She then moved to the little girl's bed. Mama. In his confusion, Rowan used a babyish word without thinking. He saw her brow crease and heard her quick, indrawn breath of irritation. Mother, he went on quickly, and so loudly that Anad stirred and began to wake of her own accord. Mother, I have the map. The map of the mountain. Change of scene. He has the map of the mountain, Jilla said again to Strong John, ignoring the exclamations of the crowd. Her cheeks were pink with excitement, her hood flung back over her shoulders. She looked to Rowan very beautiful, and perhaps she did to Strong John too, for he was looking at her admiringly. Then quickly, let us see, demanded Broden, stamping her tough boot in the cold. But I cannot believe this. Why would that old woman try such a trick? Are you sure your boy's not playing the fool? Of course not, snapped Jill, taking the map from Rowan and passing it to her. See for yourself. Broden unrolled the parchment and stared at it for a moment, her breath making little puffs of mist in the cold morning air. Then her mouth turned down at the corners as she passed the parchment to John and then Molly. Well? Alan, standing beside Rowan and Jilla, was feverish with curiosity. What is it? What has the boy found? Strong John turned the parchment around to face them. It was completely blank. But, Rowan burst out, it was there. A drawing of the mountain, and words, and arrows, and a track mark in red leading to the cloud, and above it, it was. Broden sniffed, and jerked her head towards the empty sheet still dangling from John's hand. Seeing is believing, she said, turning away. Small boys should learn that it's a big mistake to try and play tricks on their betters to get attention. Maybe you were dreaming, Rowan, said Alan, patting him on the shoulder. Too much cheese at dinner, then? This happens to me sometimes. Things can seem to be real. This was real, Jilla broke in. She was frowning, staring at the parchment, as if now even she couldn't believe her eyes. Rowan held it up to me. I saw it myself. Am I, too, playing tricks on my betters, Broden? There was an embarrassed pause. Strong John bit his thumb thoughtfully. Then he passed the parchment back to Rowan. If Jilla and Rowan say the map was there, then I believe them. But the fact remains that now it is not. Perhaps Sheba wished to build our hopes up, then send them crashing down. Jilla smiled at him gratefully. That would be very like her, agreed Marley. Her jaw drops as she pointed at Rowan. Look, look, she gasped. Rowan, red-faced and startled, now found the eyes of every villager upon him. People were exclaiming and staring. What was happening? What had he done now? It took him a moment to realize that they were not looking at him. They were looking at the parchment in his hand. He glanced down at it, and the stab of shock he received was immediately followed by a rush of relief and joy, for the map was slowly reappearing. Shapes, words, and finally the red dotted path winding upwards. Strong John held out his hand. Rowan, give it to me, he commanded. Eagerly Rowan surrendered the parchment. John took it and held it up. There was a buzz of excitement, then a groan of dismay from the villagers, for as they watched, the lines and arrows were fading. In the moments the parchment was blank and clean again. John passed it around. The people stared at it as it went from hand to hand, unchanging. It's witchcraft, exploded Neil, thrusting it back to Strong John as if it were poison. Sheba is toying with us. I fear she is, said John slowly. I fear she is, said John slowly. I can be slow. And it is a dangerous game she plays. He looked at Marley.
I'm very much afraid that Sheba's idea is to make me eat my words, he says to her. He puts the parchment back in Rowan's hand and watches gravely as once again marks, shapes, and lines appear on the surface. Faint at first, but growing clearer by the second.
What does this mean? Cried Jilla, clutching her son's shoulder.
Strong John hesitated. Last night, angered by something I told her, Sheba said of Rowan, "It would do you no harm to be guided by him." I believe that out of spite she has bewitched the map so it only reveals its secrets in Rowan's hands.
You're right, Molly was thinking aloud. She threw it at him last night. She intended him to discover it. She intended that this scene we have just witnessed to be played out. She paused. Sheba wants the boy to join us on the mountain. No! The words burst from Jilla before she could stop it. She bit her lip and composed herself. I mean, she went on carefully. Rowan is too young. Too young to be of use to you, and he has the bookshop to attend to. He cannot go. Of course he cannot go, agreed the teacher, Timon. He pushed his way to the front of the crowd. And I have a solution for this little dilemma. Rowan can hold the map while I copy it with my own ink and my own paper. He spread out his hands. It may take me about an hour, and Rowan's arm may tire, but it will be worth it to him. For Rowan can then go home to bed, fortunate boy, while you poor fools go off on your little stroll. Yes, Molly exclaimed. We will beat Sheba at her own game. She forgets that we are not bookshot to be led about so easily. But Sheba had forgotten nothing, for no matter what Timon did, he could not copy the map. Whenever he tried, the pens he used, and discarded one. Whenever he tried, the pens he used and discarded, one after the other, skated across the copying papers as if greased by butter. Okay, I think I understand it. I don't know, it's a very difficult sentence to read. Whatever he tried, the pens he used and discarded one after the other skated across the copying paper as if it were greased by butter, though they worked perfectly if he tried to draw on anything else. After a half hour, he had not succeeded in producing one useful line. Finally, he threw away his last pen with a grunt of disgust and sat back on his heels in a mound of screwed-up paper.
Enough, said John. We were going without the map before. Nothing has changed. We will go without the map now.
He nodded to Rowan, carefully avoiding Jilla's eyes.
We thank you, he says, for at least we have seen glimpses of the way. We will remember much of it, and it will help us. Go home now, with your mother.
But this is senseless, snapped Broden. The map will ensure our safety and success. We must take it with us, and if the map and the boy are joined by whatever trick, then we must take the boy with us too. Anyone can take his place with the bookshah. His attachment to them is foolishness in any case. We agree with Broden, said Val. Her brother beside her nodded. The village depends on us, and there's no room for faint-heartedness here.
The boy cannot come,
insisted Strong John.
The danger is too great, and he is too young.
Oh, is it? Or is it that his mother's too beautiful? Remarked Broden, pointedly. And your heart is ruling your head, John of the Orchard. John's face was flushed scarlet. Rowan felt Jilla's arm stiffen and saw her lift her chin, while 2 spots of bright color burnt in her cheeks. Mama, what's the matter with John? Whispered Anad, pulling at her mother's skirt. Why is he all red? Jilla did not reply. Rowan looked from one face to another in the crowd, and slowly, with a sinking feeling, the truth came to him. There were other children here of his age. If he had happened to any one of them, there would be no argument. It would have been taken for granted by John and Timon, by parents, by everyone else that they would go. It would be taken for granted by John and Timon, by their parents, and by everyone else that they would go. And they would go. It would be the greatest adventure of their lives, their chance to prove themselves heroes. It was because he was like he was that Strong John was taking his stand, because now he saw it now. Strong John loved his mother, and he was trying to save her from shame and pain. Rowan began to quiver, and Sheba's words rang again in his ears.
The mountain will not test your courage. It will destroy it.
Why had she done this to him? If the mountain could destroy the courage of one such as Strong John, who feared nothing, what could it do to Rowan of the Bookshire, who feared everything? He was filled with dread and loneliness, and shame in equal parts. He could not bear it. He could not bear the rueful eyes of the villagers upon him. They too must be thinking, why him? Why the most disappointing child in the whole of Rin? By what unlucky chance was he their chosen savior, when all he could do was let them down? He turned towards his mother, ready to hide his face in her skirt, and just at that moment, a picture flashed into his mind. He saw himself standing in the Bookshire field, with Star's warm muzzle bent to his hand, and the other beasts grazing around him, huge, calm, and trusting. He had never disappointed the Bookshire. He had never let them down. In the frosty early mornings, or in the heat of the sun, whenever they were injured or giving birth to calves, or when they needed comfort as the dragon roared, he had been there. And now they needed water. They do not expect him to fail. To them, he was not an undersized, scared weakling. To them, he was a leader, a guide, and a friend. They trusted him absolutely. The thought flowed through him like warm, rich milk. He raised his head and looked straight at Strong John. "I will go," he says. The map he held fluttered a little in the breeze that always came just before dawn. "I will go with you to the mountain." Alright, that is the end of chapter 4. Woo! Spicy! Some spicy stuff. John's into Rowan's mum. Everyone's smack talking the weak kid. But as we were talking about, the what change forces the hero to go on his journey. Now, at first, you might think it's because the witch enchanted the map, but that's not the point that he decides he needs to do this. It is realizing the Bookshire are important. That's what inspires Rowan to go on this journey. That he doesn't want to let people down who haven't been let down by him, who don't see him as weak. And for me, I think that's kind of a really cool moment. The fact that there's the two different motivations, right? But he picks the one that's gentler, and I think that sets the pace for who Rowan is as a character. And that was really cool. Any thoughts from the audience? Any thoughts from our crowd, our lovely people here? Glued to the screen, very nice. I'm glad, Hester. Whew. Alright, got about another half an hour, so I think we can... Yeah, we can definitely get through another chapter. Easy, maybe 2 chapters. I like Rowan. What a kind soul. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Rowan is such a gentle thing. Alright, I might go quickly grab a glass of water, because I'm out of my hot chocolate. I drank it. But I will return momentarily. In the meantime, enjoy the relaxing tunes. By the way, let me know if you want the music to be louder. I'll come back and I'll tune it up or down as need be. Okay, I'll be back. Music is fine. Music is fine. Sweet. All right, good to hear. All right. Shall we continue? Chapter 5. The Mountain. They had been walking beside... Excuse me. They'd been walking beside the dry bed of the stream for many... You know that weird bit where your like brain's trying to like switch on? That's what I'm going through. Okay, just... Okay. They had been walking beside the dry bed of the stream for hours, and had left the village far behind them. Looking back, Rowan could no longer see the tall stone walls of the mill, the highest building, because the trees had screened it away from view. In front of them, like a massive wall, rose the mountain. In another 2 hours, the others said that they would reach it. The map showed clearly that they must begin their climb at a place where the water gushes from the underground tunnels to form the stream. There they would rest for a while to consult the map before going on. Rowan was very tired. The bag he carried was dragging his shoulders, and his back and his leg ached. But he knew that he had to keep walking and not complain. The others were trying to make it easy for him to keep up, but he could tell that the slow pace was irritating Broden and Val at least. It was hard to tell how Ellis felt, because he rarely spoke at any time. Even when they had passed the mill, and the great wooden wheel lay motionless in the mill race, its own channel on one side. The mill race? What's a mill race? Is that like a thing? Maybe it is, yeah. Even when they had passed the mill, and the great wooden wheel lay motionless in the mill race, its own channel on one side of the dry stream bed, he had said nothing. Only looked, then turned his head back toward the mountain. Rowan watched him now, striding at the head of the group. He carried his pack and the extra weight of a heavy rope, a small axe, and their supply of torches with ease. Close behind him walked his sister. They were a strange, silent pair. Rowan had heard Gilla say to Strong John that it was as though they lived in a world of their own, a world inhabited by only two people. They seemed as hard and immovable as the stone walls of their very own mill. They were about the same age as Gilla, and Rowan had taken them for granted as he grew up. They were just part of the normal day-to-day life of the village, just like the other adults he had known since babyhood. But lately he had come to realize that Val and Ellis really were unusual, and that his mother and people like Strong John and Alan thought so too. Behind Val, a head shorter but stockier and determined, tramped Broden. Molly came next, smiling occasionally at Alan, who was swinging along beside her, whistling and singing as if on a country jaunt. They had put Rowan second to last, with Strong John bringing up the rear. Every now and then, John would speak to him. "All well, Rowan?" he would call heartily, or, "Nearly there now, my friend." Rowan would nod and mutter an unwilling answer. He knew John really didn't care how he felt. He just felt responsible for him. John was good-natured and agreeable to everyone. It was his way. And he had always been pleasant to Rowan. But that was different from liking. He cared for Anad, and you could see that. But with Rowan, he never really relaxed. He tried too hard to be nice. You don't have to try when you really like someone. Rowan knew that. And sometimes John called him Skinny Rabbit and laughed at him for being afraid of things. John was talking to him now because of Gilla. And Rowan had heard his mother's whispers, "Take care of him," as she said goodbye to the big man before they left. And John had taken her both in hand and said, "I will, Gilla. By my life, I promise I will bring him home to you." Remembering this, Rowan felt a flash of resentment. What right had Strong John to look at his mother like that? What right had he to hold her hand as if he were more than her dead husband's friend? It had been a shock to him, there in the market square, when he realized that John might feel more for his mother than simple friendship. It had been horrible to think that he might plan on becoming her husband one day. No one could take his father's place, thought Rowan bitterly. No one. He stamped along, staring straight ahead. And John should feel responsible for this mess, he thought. It was John's teasing that angered Sheba, so that he made Rowan the keeper of the map. It was John's fault that Rowan had been forced to become the weak, unwanted 7th member of this party. At that, Rowan's thoughts changed direction. His anger cooled. He wondered whether John and Marley had remembered Sheba's words.
7 hearts the journey make, 7 ways the heart will break.
They said nothing, but surely they must have thought about it, as he had. A shiver ran down his spine. There's no way Sheba could have known the number of travelers in advance, unless she really had a vision of the future as she lay back in that chair, her eyes half closed. And if that part of the prophecy had come true, what of the rest? Rowan bent his head to watch the ground beneath his feet. He did not want to look at the mountain. As the last hours tramping drew to a close and the rock of the mountain's foothills loomed large and sharp, the sun was already warm on Rowan's back. For some time now he had managed to stay on his feet, only thinking of the bookshaw. While Jilla had been loading his pack for the journey, he had slipped away into the fields to say goodbye. He had found the beast swaying anxiously in the green grass that was still surrounding the muddy drinking pool. "We're going to help you," Rowan had told them as he moved from one to the other, stroking and patting, drawing in the familiar warm animal smell of them. "Soon there will be sweet water again. It won't be long." Last of all, he had come to Star. He put his arm as far as they would reach around her neck, and lay his head on her shaggy wool. "Goodbye, Star," he had said. "Wait for me. I will bring back the water. I will not fail you." He knew Star could not understand his words, but she had grunted and snuffled him, as if comforted by the tone of his voice. "Anna and Mother will see to you while I'm gone," he had told her. If Dawn has her calf while I'm away, they will help her. They promised me. One final hug and he had to go. But Star's trust and strength swayed with him, even when his knees trembled with tiredness and his breath shuddered in his chest. "Yo, Ellis!" Strong John's shout broke Rowan's daydream. Alan and Mally came to a stop in front of him. He stumbled to a halt and looked up. Before him rose a cliff of rocks, and beside him the dry stream had become a deep round hole, still puddled with a few little muddy water. There was a black opening in the cliff just above the hole. Dying weeds and moss crusted its smooth edges. So this was where the water had come from. "The water usually gushes from here," Strong John was saying to Val and Ellis, pointing at the opening. "When it is running as it should, you cannot stand here without being soaked by the spray." Broden clambered down into the empty pool and walked busily around it, kicking at the soft mud. Then she bent over the rock and looked up into the opening in the cliff face, as though hoping to find the answer there. "Sheba said the problem was at the top of the mountain." Sorry, wrong person. "Sheba said the problem is at the top of the mountain," said Marley, who didn't seem to be able to stop herself from being irritated by Broden. "There's nothing to be seen down there." "There's no harm, I suppose, in looking for myself, Marley," Broden retorted, rubbing her hand against the rock, feeling into the hole in the cliff as far as her arm could reach. "A round tunnel, the bottom, walls, and the top are polished smooth," she reported, wiping her slimy hand against her clothes before climbing back onto the bank. "All the sharp edges have been worn away by the running water, no doubt." "As one would expect," snapped Molly. Rowan sank down into the grass. His knees would not hold him any longer. He pulled off the heavy bag and fumbled in it for his drink bottle.
Drink a little, but not too much, Alan warned, kneeling down beside him. We do not know how long our supplies may have to last, and we may not find water on the mountain.
Rowan swallowed a mouthful of warm, metal-tasting water. It was delicious. He could have drained the flask easily, but he forced himself to replace the cap, and as he did so, tears sprang into his eyes. He was so tired, and the real journey had not even begun. The other members of the party threw down their bags and stretched. Then one by one, they too flung themselves down onto the grass.
The map, Rowan, urged Alan. Let's see it now. But, hold on to it all the time, mind you. The comings and goings of the figures upsets my stomach.
Rowan took the map from his pack and unrolled it onto the grass, weighing the corners down with stones. The others gather around.
We are here, you see,
said Strong John, his finger hovering over the surface.
According to the red marks, we must start climbing at this point. The tracks go past this cave, which the stream flows, and continues until the mountain levels, and the trees begin... there, up there.
He points to a green, wavering mass of leaves high above them.
A steep climb, grunted Val. The boy will have trouble. Then we will have to help him, said Strong John. No, wait, sorry. Then we will have to help him, said Strong John cheerfully.
Alan was puzzling over the map.
What are these white patches?
He asked, waving his finger over several places on the parchment. Marley frowned. They're all beside the path. 6 of them in all. Could it be that Sheba has erased something of importance to trick us?
I would not put anything past her, said Strong John. But after all, it is the path that is most important, and that, at least, is clear.
Quite right, put in Broden, stretching and yawning. It's pointless to be concerned with anything other than the task at hand. But Rowan stared at the white patches on the map with a growing sense of anxiety. Why had he not noticed them before? Now that he had seen them, they jumped out at him. Blank spaces, almost evenly spaced out along the path, the last of which at the very top. Blank spaces on a surface otherwise completely covered with colors and lines. What did they mean? The first space was at the point where the path entered the trees. They would find out what it meant soon enough. We go through the forest first, it seems. Broden was continuing. A flat walk due west. This should be easy enough. Though of course with the boy it'll take us longer, she sighed heavily. The directions are clear. Where the forest trees end, we turn northwest. Then we move to the lower grounds. A short distance, it shouldn't take us long to cover, and so on up until the top. Simple. I have a compass, fortunately, and so, I know, do Marley and John, for we traded for them together on our last trip to the coast. She then turns to Val and Ellis. You should really take your turn on the market trips, my friends. So many interesting things to see and useful items to trade for. Val shrugged. The mill must keep working, Broden. We cannot close it to gallivant where we please. Oh, but one of you could go and the other one could stay, suggested Alan, lazily chewing on a blade of grass and blinking up at the sky. Val went very still. That would not suit us, said Ellis flatly. It is not our way.
Well, you never got to go to the coast either.
Sorry, different person. Well, you never go to the coast either, Alan. Marley pointed out. You always say you're too busy. You're just as bad as Val and Ellis. Broden opened her mouth as if to say something, then thought better of it. In any case, she remarked instead, after the moment, these compasses are a marvel. The Maris folk use them while sailing out in the open seas. How much easier than that will our task be, for we have landmarks to follow. We will be home by tomorrow, midday. Mark my words. If it was so simple, we wouldn't have needed to bring the map with us, Broden, Marley leaned forward. The mountain is a dangerous place. A place to fear. You should take nothing for granted. I take nothing for granted, Marley the Weaver. As you know, accept the evidence from your own eyes. Snapped Broden. And if you fear, you should not be of this party. It's bad enough that we must drag the boy along, quavering in his boots.
Do not forget, Broden, that you are the one who insisted upon that, barked Strong John.
Broden shrugged and turned away. It would be better, said Alan mildly, if we put aside our differences. Then he sat up, eyes widened. He held out his hands, making them tremble violently.
And if fear is the issue, then I, for one, am terrified,
he squeaked, throwing himself back onto the grass, wagging his head and chattering his teeth. Strong John and Marley laughed. Even Rowan managed to smile. But Val and Ellis stared silently at Alan, then at each other. Broden let loose a snort. Also, hello, McBluff, Odd Bandicoot, and Cowface. Good to see you. Good to see you guys. How you guys doing? We're reading a book. We are. Hey, Brochan, so good to see you. Hello. For the French. All right. Okay. Let us continue. And then we're about half a page left before the end of the chapter, and then I'll do a quick recap for you guys who just joined. All right. Well, if Alan can't be revived from his terror, I think we should begin, Marley says, pulling out a thick rope from a pack. We will climb with rope, will we not? I may not feel the fear of which I am accused, but I don't fancy a fall on the rocks all the same. When food was scarce in Rin, Rowan had to climb trees, bending the leafy branches to come down to meet the snuffling, eager mouths of the hungry booksha. But he clung, dizzy and pale, to even the lowest boughs. He had no head for heights. The climb that followed was, for him, the worst of nightmares. A rope attached him to Marley, Alan, and the other climbers above, and of course to Strong John below. When he slipped, as he did over and over again, his light body, weighed down by his pack, swung sickeningly in space as far as the rope would allow. The sky above him and the ground spun below. His own terrifying screams echoed in his ears, his ribs crushed by the ropes that saved him. And then his body swung back against the rocks with a bruising thud, and he had to climb again. This was bad enough, but worse was the fear that one of the others would prove as careless as he. If John slipped, the weight might pull them all to their deaths onto the rocks below. If one of the others slipped, even John might not be able to hold on to them. Sore, trembling, and aching in every muscle, Rowan struggled on. And when they at last dragged him over the top of the cliff, and he fell to the ground, sweating and panting, the world swarmed red before his eyes, for a moment before he fainted. Alright, and that is the end of chapter 5. Hey, I'm so surprised I got a channel membership. Thank you. Thank you. The book seems cool. You have a nice reading voice. Oh, thank you. Well, let me tell you a little bit about this book. This book is called The Rowan of Rin. It is a saga, a young adult saga that I read when I was a kid. And for me, I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed Harry Potter. The story is of a young booksha farmer by the name of Rowan, who is, well, basically he's from the town of Rin, and Rin, the water has dried up. So him and a group of adventurers, well, I say adventurers, a group of villagers who their heritage is kind of like from like warriors and like, you know, soldiers and stuff like that. They've put together a group to go up the mountain that is nearby and find out why the water's gone. Every morning and every evening, there used to be the sound of a big roaring dragon. No one's seen the dragon, but they've heard it. But when the stream dried up, so too did the roars of the dragon. So now this group of people, which are Broden, well, I don't remember what Broden was. Broden was the one thing. Broden, Marley, Strong John, Alan, Val, and Eris were, you know, the people who are going up. In addition, there is Rowan, who is our main character, who is a booksha farmer. Now, the 6 warriors wanted to go up, but before they went up, they tried to get a map from a like kind of an old witch in a hut, who gave them the map. But because she was angry at Strong John, because Strong John was cocky and stuff, she gave the map to Rowan, who is the only person who can read the map. Well, not read the map, but when he touches the map is created, and when he lets it go, it disappears. So they have had to bring Rowan on this journey so that they can read the map. And he loves the Bookshire and wants to bring them water again. And so, yeah, if they don't succeed, the village dies. So it's a kind of like a very, very, very cool kind of D&D adventure type thing. Book Farmer? No, Bookshire. I kind of imagine, like, it doesn't really give you a full description of the Bookshire, but they're supposed to be gray-furred, hulking, grazing creatures. I've always kind of imagined them to be like bison or yak, you know? Like just these big, heavy, kind of Nordic-looking creatures that they milk and they, you know, get butter from and stuff like that. Yeah. Okie dokie. Let's see what time we got. 10 minutes? Yeah, you know what? Let's see. How long we on animal? Yep. It's an animal. Yeah. She's a grazing animal. You know what? Just because Mac and Brochan have come here and the chapter doesn't look that long, let's do one more chapter before we call it for the day. Yeah? All right. This one's for you guys. So, Star, who is the Rowan's favorite Bookshire, one of the largest ones. Star was licking Rowan's cheek and forehead with her rough, cool tongue. Rowan smiled. "Stop it, Star. Leave me be," he mumbled. He rolled his head from side to side on the grass. "He's babbling," someone said in disgust. The picture of Star slowly dissolved. Rowan opened his eyes and found himself staring into the serious face of Strong John. For a moment he hesitated. Then, with a wave of bitter disappointment, he realized where he was. Not home in the Bookshire fields with Star who loved him, but on the mountain, with Strong John, who disliked him, Marley and Alan, who pitied him, and Broden, Val, and Ellis, who despised him. "He's babbling," Val repeated impatiently. "By my life, how are we burdened by this weakling? Look at the sun! It mustn't be nearly 11. John threw aside the damp cloth which he had been tending to Rowan's face with. "He's awake now," he said bluntly. "And weakling or not, he fought that cliff valiantly. Val the miller. He fought it to exhaustion." He stood up and walked away, arcing his cramped back. Rowan lay still, looking up at the sky. His body felt heavy, but his head felt very light. There was a soft ringing in his ears. Val was right. The sun was high. He must have been lying there for a long time, sleeping, dreaming of home like a small child. His face began to burn as he struggled to sit up. Easily, boy, Rowan," grinned Alan, kneeling down beside him and supporting his back. "We must crawl before we can walk. Here, have this." He held a flask to Rowan's lip, and Rowan swallowed it gratefully. "Here, when you're feeling better," Alan went on, glancing meaningfully at the others. "When you're feeling better, we'll move on to the forest. Here." He dragged Rowan's pack towards him. "You can spend your time usefully by holding the map for us while we look at it once again." "We have seen the way we must go." We've seen the way we must go. Right, sorry, I've got to get the voice right. "We've seen the way we must go," frowned Broden. "We do not need the map." "Ah, youth. You must not forget that I'm 3 years older than you, Broden," smiled Alan, "and my poor memory's fading fast." Rowan knew that Alan was only giving him something to do while he rested, but he slid the map from his bag and unrolled it slowly. It would not hurt to study it again. His eyes traveled along the red dotted line, past the sketched-in stream bed, the hole in which the water usually fell, the opening in the cliff itself, the entrance to the forest beside a high-pointed rock not far from where they are now, and the path through. Rowan blinked, and looked, and blinked again. He tried to speak and almost choked. Alan looked at him quickly, then glanced at the parchment. He exclaimed under his breath, John!" he shouted. John spun around and ran back towards them, while the other members of the party craned their necks to look. Rowan was pointing wordlessly towards the map. At the place beside the beginning of the forest path, where once there had been a clear white space, there were now 6 lines of black writing. In a low voice, Alan reads the words aloud. Let arms be still and voices low. 1,000,000 eyes watch as you go. The silken door your pathway ends. There fire and light will be your friends. Then see yourself as others may, and catch noon's eye to clear your way.
What nonsense is this? Demanded Val. Who's been playing the fool?
No one has touched the map, Val. The words have appeared since last we looked at them, retorted Marley.
That's impossible. No, it's why I don't know why I've become French. I don't know. It's terrible. Try again. Right. That's impossible, said Broden.
She bent over the map, squinting, looking at the words as though to find a clue as to how they had come to be there.
Well, it matters not a jot where they come from, cried Alan. The question is, what does it mean?
Strong John.
Whatever we're dealing with here, he says, it is certain that the words have not come to us by chance. They give us an instruction and a warning.
The words suggest we do not fling our arms about or speak loudly, Alan remarked.
That is clear enough. I shall follow the advice of the letter.
That may prove difficult for you, Alan, Marley said dryly.
The word also mentions noon.
Strong John was unsmiling.
I suggest we begin our forest journey as soon as we can. It will be noon in about an hour by my reckoning.
He held out his hand to Rowan and hauled him to his feet.
Roll up the map and stick it to your belt for now, boy, he said roughly. My load is unbalanced, I find, and I need to carry your pack as well as my own to even the weight, if you do not object.
He did not wait for an answer, but swung both bags onto his shoulders and began striding towards Pointed Rock. The others hurried after him. Rowan, no longer weighed down by the pack on his back, found that he was able to keep up quite easily despite his bruises. They paused at the Pointed Rock and peered between the first trees. Sunlight filtered through the rustling leaves and lay in pools on the floor of the forest. There was a rough, winding path in front of them, soon lost behind the view of the undergrowth.
Well, this looks pleasant enough, said Alan. Shall I lead this time?
The gravity of the task may help me hold my tongue, as the verse commands.
I mean, stranger things have happened.
Well, then lead by all means, grumbled Broden.
Any peace from your infernal chatter'll be a blessing. They moved into the forest. Rowan noticed that all of them, whatever they were feeling about the map's instructions, kept their arms close to their sides, and no one spoke. In a few minutes the path had twisted and turned, so they could no longer see the cliff tops from which they had come. As they trudged deeper into the forest, the trees around them became bigger and closer together. Tangled with vines and surrounded by straggling bushes, the light became dim, and the silence. Rowan kept closing behind Marley, listening for Strong John's firm steps behind him, and thought he had never experienced something so silent. Where are the birds, and the crickets, and the lizards, and other small creatures that usually inhabit woods like this? Then he heard it. A faint twittering sound was floating down from the path somewhere up ahead. A large colony of small birds by the sounds of it. Rowan was familiar with all the birds of Rin, but this sounded like nothing he had ever heard before. These little creatures must have belonged to a breed that did not stray into the valley. They would not be nesting at this time of year, but he still looked forward to seeing them fluttering and hopping about. His spirits were lifted at the thought of this. The twittering grew louder and louder. Alan began to walk faster as if he too was interested in what was ahead. Soon he had left Marley behind. She clicked her tongue and hurried to join him. Rowan stretched his legs to keep up and tried to peer around Marley's shoulders as the path turned once more, and so he stumbled and nearly fell as she gasped and cannoned into Alan, standing still and almost invisible in the dimness. The cheeping sound was deafening now. Strong John grabbed Rowan's arm and steadied him, frowning as Val, Ellis, and Broden bumped into him in their turn. And still Alan didn't move. "Alan, you blockhead! What games are you playing at?" Broden barked. The twittering stopped abruptly, and a rustling, creeping, whispering sound took its place. Alan looked back at them, his face creamy pale in the dim light, but he didn't answer, only moved his head very carefully from side to side. And that's where they saw what he had seen. On both sides of the narrow pathway, spiders. Thousands of them. Huge, black, velvety spiders as big as Strong John's hands, crawling over vast webs of white silk that draped the trees so thickly that the bark and leaves beneath were hidden. Their eyes were shining, 1,000,000 eyes, as Rowan's skin began to creep. They were going to have to walk between these crawling webs, these gigantic spiders which were listening for them, reaching out for them. Rowan heard a strangled gasp from behind him. The spiders froze and began to move again in this direction of the sound. Strong John reached over Rowan's shoulders and pushed gently at Marley, as if signaling to move on. She pushed Alan in turn, and he began easing forward, making as little movement as possible. But they had only gone a few steps, and again there was a shuddering groan. Behind them, Val was pulling at Strong John's sleeve. "Alice, he cannot." John, Rowan, Marley, and Alan turned incredulously beyond Val's worried face, and they could see the massive form of Ellis, his clenched fist crossed over his chest, his face gleaming with sweat. He was panting and trembling, and every now and then a low moan slipped from his lips. "Spiders," breathed his sisters. "He cannot abide them. From a child he could not. At home, not a speck of dust or dry leaf may lie in the dark corners in case the spider seeks shelter. The smallest of them is terror to him, and these are beyond anything."
"Ellis," whispered Strong John urgently. "Oh, come, man. It is not fair. They're not on the path. If we take care..." No.
The sound bubbled from the big man's lips. Abruptly he turned and pushed past Broden, nearly toppling her off the path and into the webs. He tottered back the way they had come. Then he rounded the bend. They could see him no more, but they heard the sound of his feet. Running from the forest. "Go on," whispered Val, her voice fierce with worry and shame. "Go on, he will not return." Silently they obeyed. After a few minutes, the twittering sounds rose up again. The spiders were communicating once more, slowly rubbing their great ribbed legs together like poisonous crickets. The noise strange and horrible to hear now that they knew where it came from. Rowan crept along behind Marley, breathing in shallow gasps, making himself as thin and as small as possible, trying not to look from side to side, trying not to think of the sticky white curtains that swathed the trees, the huge spiders crawling, their millions eyes so close. To allow himself to speak or cry out would be to attract the spiders again. To touch one of the strands of the thick white silk would be to call them running to him. He had seen enough insects caught in webs to know that at least. He must go on walking and force down the fear. He must think. He must remember the last line of the verse. "The silken door your pathway ends. There fire and light will be your friend. Then see yourself as others may, and catch the noon to clear your way." The silken door, noon's eye. It must be nearly noon now. He jumped nervously as Strong John's hand touches his shoulder. He looks up. They were in a small clearing, and before them was the silken door. A huge, gleaming white web, so thick you could not see through it, its surface scattered with twigs and leaves that were caught in its sticky thread. It stretched from one side of the path to the other, completely blocking it, and all around were crouched hundreds of spiders, waiting. Alan turned to face his companions. "What now?" he mouthed. "The verse," breathed Marley. "The verse has no meaning," hissed Broden. "Cut through the web and we'll be done with it, Alan. Or if you don't have the stomach for it, let me through and I'll do it myself." The spiders rustled in the webs. I am getting freaking itchy. Just FYI. I have been holding on this whole time, but my whole body is goddamn itchy. What the shit? I need a break. Give me a second. Happy subiversary, Dazzle. It is so good to see you, my friend. Ah, fuck me. Okay. Whew, because I'm arachnophobic. I don't like spiders. And fuck, everything is itchy. My face is itchy. My neck is itchy. My back is itchy. My butt's itchy. It's fucking itchy. Okay, I'm good. Maybe. Fuck. Oh, goddamn spiders. Thank you for the follow, Waffle Stomp. Honestly, I didn't know if I wanted to do an ASMR stream or what was happening. Yeah, no, it's not an ASMR stream. Oh my god. Okay. Whew. Okay. I'm gonna take a quick break here. I'm gonna keep reading, but I'm just gonna, welcome. Hi everyone. It's good to see you. If you don't know what's going on, we are reading Emily Rodda's Rowan of Rin. It's a story about a small village whose stream has dried up, and everyone is basically a small group of adventurers are climbing a mountain to try and find out what the source was. There were 6 mighty warriors that went with them. And Rowan, our main character, is a bookshare farmer, so it's kind of think like yaks or bison. He's a farmer who was cursed or enchanted by the witch of the local village, so that he is the only person who, when he touches the map up the for the mountain, it reveals itself. So he has been the unwilling participant in this journey. The spider forest is what they've first encountered. And one of the party members has already fled back down the mountain. So our party of 7 has already dropped down to 6. So that's kind of where we're at. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So we're at this point, right? Yeah, they're climbing up the mountain. There is a dragon at the top of the mountain. They've heard the dragon. They know it's there. But since the stream dried up in the village, the dragon hasn't made any noise. So everyone's thinking, oh, maybe it's safe to go and, check this out. So that's kind of what's happening at the moment. But yeah. Okay, where are we at? Yeah, we're almost there. We're almost there. We've got another page and a bit, maybe 2 pages. Let me just catch up on some chat here while I get myself in order here. Goddamn spiders. Yep. Honestly, didn't know if I wanted to do an ASM stream. Yep. Spiders. That's an ant, but yeah. DAG, you got this. Thanks, McBuff. Some of the most interesting spiders live in Australia. Yeah, no, they absolutely do. How can an Aussie be scared of spiders? Only Aussies are scared of spiders. I mean, look, it's a perfectly good reason to be scared of spiders if you know what the Australian spiders are like. Actually, fun fact, did you know that there is a episode of Peppa Pig that is banned in Australia because it involves Peppa Pig making friends with a spider? And we don't want kids to think that that's okay, because we have very dangerous spiders. So that's a whole thing. At least in Australia. Yeah, no, absolutely. Big fan of Robert. First time I've had a chance to catch my stream. Oh, that's cool. Awesome. Thank you. I'm really, really glad that you enjoy Robert's stuff. He and I are very, very good friends. Honestly, my hangouts are just chill hangouts, right? We just do stuff. We have fun. We muck about. And every now and then we do fun and cool stuff together. By the way, if you are a Robert fan, remember, in 9 hours-ish, 9 or 10 hours, we're going to be on D20 Deathmatch teaming up together for a battle thing. So if you want to check that out, be sure to follow the Twitters and stuff. And yeah, you'll come see us do stuff, do follow things. So yeah. Whew, okay. I'm feeling better now, guys. Sure, Dag's gonna be. Thank you, Bro Chan. I moved to a place too cold for spiders. Yeah, fair enough. That's a smart idea. Peace out, the spider to the forest. Yep, that's true. You know what? In this case, I don't know. It really pushed me. I might push through. Like, I mean, if this was me in this situation, I may push through. Like, if I could close my eyes and just hang on to the person in front of me, I might be okay. You know what I mean? It's also the fact that there's that noise that they make when their legs are rubbing up together. And, like, just this... It's very sensory. So it's a very difficult thing to say, you know? But yeah, I'd like to think I could make it, but maybe not. Just relaxing with cats, very nice. Going to my first big American football party. Is that American football? Nice. Nice. Hey, Pixel Bunny, nice to see you. Welcome in, welcome in. It's good to see you. We're just having a chill reading stream. Can you guys still read Charlotte's Web? We can read Charlotte's Web. I mean, I know that that's still a thing. Interesting. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, technically we're not pigs, so I mean, maybe there's that translation thing. Being afraid of spiders and all that is just a survival instinct. Yep. Running my game tonight, just in Mendari stream. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, nice. I love Mendari too. Yeah, you know, we're all friends. Like, we're all really good friends, and we all do some cool stuff together. And yeah, should be a lot of fun. And Dave's, I think Dave's going with All American Dave for the next one, so that'll be fun times. Working in the US right now, got invited to watch some football. It should be fun. Nice. Well, please enjoy your football experience. And, you know, well, we're pretty much wrapping up here right now. We're just finishing up this last couple of pages, and then we're going to be calling it a day. But, you know, whatever team you happen to be whatever team that happens to float your boat, I hope that they win and absolutely destroy whoever they're playing against tonight. Got to play D&D tonight. Nice. Been about a month. Don't think there'll be many spiders. Mostly basilisks and medusas. Well, yeah, you know, it's really cool. It's fine. Basilisks have lots of legs. Just saying. Unless you're a Harry Potter basilisk. Okay, here we go. Where the hell did I leave off? I just kind of yeeted out of my book. All right, hold on. Okay, here we go. Alan turned carefully to face his companions. "What now?" he mouthed. "The verse," breathed Marley. "The verse has no meaning," hissed Broden. "Cut through the webs and be done with it, Alan. Or if you don't have the stomach for it, let me through and I'll do it myself." The spiders rustled and moved in the webs. "No," whispered Strong John. "Not while the spiders are hanging around in the silk in such numbers. As soon as we touch the webs, they'll be upon us. We cannot risk that." "They may be quite harmless," said Val. "Or they may be not," answered Marley. "As John says, we cannot risk it. We've already lost one member of our party." "Well, what then?" Broden was angry. Ellis's flight from the forest had been a great shock to her. How could such a big, strong man have such a childish weakness? She was baffled by it. She took care not to look at Val. How shamed she must feel. The light changed. From directly above them, a ray of sun penetrated the gloom of the forest, bathing them in warmth. The spiders around them began to chitter and creep back. "They do not like the light," Rowan breathed. The verse said it. "Fire and light will be our friend," it said. "Fire!" whispered Broden. "Throw a torch at the web." "Ellis was carrying the torches," said Val dully. Alan felt in his pockets and pulled out a tinderbox. "Who has something that will burn easily, even for a brief time?" "Do not make any sudden movements," warned Strong John, his eyes on the spiders. Marley slipped her hand into her jacket pocket and pulled out a compass, a comb, and a mirror. A compass, a comb, a mirror, and a handkerchief. She held her handkerchief out to Alan. He knotted it loosely and struck the flame from the tinderbox. "Ready," he warned. Then he lit the cloth and threw it straight at the center of the white barrier. The silk sizzled and shrank as the handkerchief blazed. The spiders shrieked and scattered, but only for a moment. Within seconds before even one party member had taken more than a step forward, the flame had died down, and the spiders were back. A hole gaped in the web now, but amidst the smoke still rising and blackened its edges, hundreds of spiders were crawling, and more were on their way.
They're spinning, gasped Alan. Already! They're mending the hull! We must drive them back. Strong John looked around desperately. There must be a way. They do not like the light, Rowan said again. They do not like the sun. We have no materials to make a torch here, Rowan, Marley answered. We have nothing that would make a light that would burn long enough to hold the creatures at bay. But Strong John had grasped Rowan's shoulders. Rowan, the verse. Say the last line again. Rowan repeated in a low voice. Then see yourself as others may, and catch noon's eye to clear your way. A thought struck him, and he quickly looked at Marley. Noon's eye? The sun! Alan squints up at the glare. But the sun is falling near, where we stand. The web is in the shadows. What is it, Rowan? Asked Marley, staring at him. Why are you looking at me? The mirror, whispered Rowan. Your mirror. In a mirror you see yourself as others may, and the sun. Yes! Strong John clenched his fists. But quickly, before the light goes. We've been here too long. Marley handed over the mirror. John held it in front of him and twisted it until it threw a bright reflected sunlight onto the web. The spiders scurried away from their work around the hole, shrinking back into the shadows. Give it to me, cried Val. She snatched the mirrors from John's hands and jiggled the glass and caught the sun, and a dazzling light danced around her and around the silken door. She pushed Broden ahead. Go! She shrieked. Go now! Rowan ran with the others, his eyes fixated on the hole in the web and the glimpses of green beyond. Already the dancing light was fading. He reached to the net and leaped through with millions of eyes glowing angrily from the shadows, cheated of their prey. And ladies and gentlemen, that is where we will end today's session. Behold, Hickory, our bookmark dragon, is going to keep our place nice and safe. There we go. You need nice. Hello. Until next week, when we will pick up where we had left off. Not a bad effort. I mean, we are now on to chapter 7, which is amazing. But already we've lost one member of our party. That's amazing. That's man, it's nuts. It's incredible. Let's see. Let's catch up with chat. If anyone has any questions or anything they want to ask, now's the time before we go and raid someone. But yeah, ask them. Yeah, if you've got D&D questions, ask them as well. I have no mind. We'll answer some questions before we head out. Apparently I'm cheering the Chicago Bears. As a Bronco fan, I find it disturbing, but when in Rome, yeah, it's true. Sometimes it's safer. Yeah, I'm itchy. Yep, right. It was really itchy. It was a great, like, I mean, it's just a good show of like how good wordplay can actually create such vivid sensations through just audio. Childish weakness. Somewhere a French middle finger rises. Nice. Esther, I remember Rise's car. Let's go see all this. It's clever. Yeah, it was very clever. Very clever. Thanks a lot, DAG. You're very welcome. Very welcome. Thank you for introducing me to your fun book. Nice, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like I said, we're going to be reading through all 5 of the young adult books. Like we've gotten pretty. I mean, like I wouldn't say we've gotten like overly far. Like we've done a pretty decent amount, but like that's 2 hours per stream. So I mean, hey, we're doing it. How many books in the series? I don't know if I should tell you. I feel like if I told you, then it's like, well, you know, he's safe for however many books, you know. So if I just say, you know, that. Hey, there is a series. There are extra books. You know, I'll leave it there, but I'll leave it as a kind of like an open, like, oh, hey, maybe we'll find that out later. Maybe you'll find out. Does Death Ward stop petrification? Ooh, that's a noodler. Does Death Ward stop petrification? Let's see. Death Ward in, I presume, 5th edition, because keeping in mind when you're on my channel, there are so many different games that are in my little hat. So. I mean, you know, Pathfinder. Let's see. You touch a creature and crash a measure of death. First time you try to drop to 0 hit points instead of taking the damage.
Just the one spell ends the spell. Kill instantaneously. No, Death Ward does not stop petrification. Petrification works as if you were paralyzed, I believe in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, or it works as flesh to stone in Pathfinder. Both results without you dropping to 0 hit points specifically. Nor is it a spell that would instantaneously kill you without dealing damage. Because it specifically petrifies you, your character is still technically alive. That would be my ruling on that. Technically speaking, because here's the catch. If it turns you to stone, the effect doesn't kill you. But if they then break the stone, that is also not an effect. So, unfortunately, one of the only ways to bypass Death Wards, or one of the ways you can bypass Death Wards, is turning someone to stone and breaking it, because, yeah, it doesn't really do that. Alright. I do appreciate you fighting your phobia. Oh, thank you, bro. Yeah, sometimes you can challenge yourself to do these really, really cool things, like, challenging your phobias and things. Go out and research these books. Yeah, if you wish to. Absolutely. Then we're totally boned. Don't forget, Medusas at the very least, and maybe even basilisks, actually use gaze attacks as their point of origin. So if you blind a basilisk... Actually, let me just check on basilisk, because I know it's the case with the Medusas. Basilisk. So if you blind a basilisk, or if you blind a Medusa... you can basically just disrupt their ability to petrify you. Let's see. Petrify gaze. Yeah, it's a gaze attack. So if you blind them, which can easily be done with like obscuring mist, you could do it with sand, you could do it with like just finding cover. Literally, they actually have to see you, and that's your ticket to survival in a basilisk fight. Another option is obviously, the typical, using a reflective surface or a mirror to reflect it. That's another good method you can use against them. In addition, depending on how you want to go about it, if you have a literal spell blindness, there's the literal spell blindness that'll work for that as well. The other really, really interesting way is... you could potentially, depending on what level you are, you could potentially trick it into thinking it's already used its gaze attack. Because, keeping in mind, here's how the gaze attack works. If a creature starts its turn within 30 foot of a basilisk, and the two of them can see each other, the basilisk can force the creature to make a challenge check or fail. Right? But here's the catch. If you close your eyes, it doesn't meet the criteria of both seeing each other. Right? So that's the catch. Is you have to see it and it has to see you. So you could literally fight a basilisk with your eyes closed. It is riskier and everything's at disadvantage, but hey, that's the risk you take. And it's only at the start of your turn. And depending on what your GM says, I know this is really cheap and it probably won't fly. Definitely won't fly. But if you start your turn with your eyes closed, open your eyes, take your shot, and then at the end of your turn, as a bonus action, close your eyes again. You're denying yourself a bonus action, but yeah. That's why you don't see them at low levels. Yeah, it's true. It's why you don't see them at low levels. Actually, these creatures should actually be more ambush predators than anything else. Is this an audiobook? I actually don't know, Rock. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I haven't looked into it myself. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for hanging out with me today. This was really nice. This was actually super nice. I am definitely enjoying the DAG Read series. Can't wait to chop through more of this, and once we're done, hey, maybe we'll do some comic books. Or maybe we'll find other cool things. Let me know. We can definitely make some cool stuff happen. In the meantime, we are gonna go and raid Mindari because we love her face. Mindari's face. Gonna beat it up tomorrow for D20 deathmatch. Probably not. Actually, it's supposed to be an American Gladiators inspired type of thing. So we're doing obstacle courses and stuff like that. And boy, howdy, are you guys going to enjoy our characters. I'm not gonna give you any spoilers, but you should definitely tune in. Actually, let me see if I can. Where is it? Boom. There we go. And come on, DAG. I didn't have this ready, but now I do. There we go. There we go. D20 deathmatch. Boom, boom, boom. There it is. All right, yeah. So come check out the D20 deathmatch stuff. We're gonna be doing stuff tomorrow, 9 p.m. EST. Oh, tonight, 9 p.m. EST. I don't know what time it is. For me, it's tomorrow morning. But yeah. So come check us out. Come see all the cool things. Until we meet again, guys. As always, stay safe, stay wonderful. Until we cross each other's paths again. Game hard, or die trying. Bye.